Thanks for joining. Let me get the recording in progress thing off here. All right. So this bite-sized presentation has kind of evolved. So that's why on your screen, can everybody see my screen, by the way, the slide that says bite-sized and other strategies?
Yes, I can see it. Looks good.
Sweet. Thank you. So it sort of evolved as I was creating this presentation. So not only do I want to talk about bite-sized, I want to talk about some other strategies, or hope we all talk about actually, for educating educators. So my name is Cara Idle. I am the instructional designer of accessibility and UDL at Arapahoe Community College. My pronouns are she and it. I'm middle-aged. I'm sitting in my office here today. I have kind of unkept hair. And I'm presenting on slides that are black background and white text. And I also have a hand drawing picture here of a happy smile and my version of a chocolate chip cookie with a bite out of it to show us what we're going to get and how we feel at the end of this presentation. So as said, our learning objective today is to discuss methods to educate educators on accessibility. And again, I would love for this to be a brainstorm sesh. I'm sure many of you have ideas or practices that you do. And so again, feel free to unmute for comments or questions or put them in the chat. Liz, if you'll help me monitor that chat, and I
Yes.
will, thank you. And I will try to remember to stop for comments and questions. All right, so what's the first thing that I'm doing right now? Step one is I've offered a course eval, and that is for instructors when they come to us. We're not no longer e-learning, we're Center of Innovation in Teaching and Learning. So we're a huge professional development department. So when they come to us asking for help with accessibility, the first thing we do is ask them to fill out this self-review. And the QR code will take you there. I'm also gonna post the link in the chat. It is still in early days, so if you notice anything, we got my other note in there, which is going to be my first point on the second slide. So, but that's okay. So that's something that you can look at to get ideas. Again, it's probably not perfect at this point. One thing that I would mention is that you're going to want to include some resources here. I'm going to go to it. And I wish I could get this mouse thing to stop it. I probably can, but I'm not going to worry about that. So I'm going to try to get it over on the screen. Everybody see that okay? The review HTML page?
Yes.
Thank you. Okay. So one thing that I would encourage is to give explanations and maybe resources right there in your self-eval, because what we're asking, it may be like, well, I don't know. Do I? So this will give them, so they have the resources accessible right there. So when they're going through asking the questions, they know what they're looking for. So I'm gonna move this out of the way, maybe. Uno momento, please. There we go. Oh, I had it there. All right. So Now let's go back here to full screen. So then what are some practices and techniques to do this? Again, as I said, we can't assume that everybody knows about accessibility, why we do things, um, how this benefits our students and inclusion. So the first thing is, okay, how am I describing this? Am I describing it in a way that meets the level to the person that I'm talking to? So again, if you need to explain. You can also demonstrate, having that visual kind of another way to learn things. I know that I need to see it demonstrated, see things demonstrated and actively participate in order to learn things. So that's the other thing, is to encourage active participation. So with accessibility, it can be very daunting. And if you're sitting in an hour webinar or class or training, just to go along step by step by step can be overwhelming, can get lost. It's better if you allow questions as you go along to kind of clear up things. Speaking of which, any comments or questions? No?
None so
Um,
far.
Cool. All right. So now here we got practices and techniques. We're on the wrong slide. Um, so we want to chunk this information. As I was talking about, I think most of us know we can only digest so much information at one time, at least most of us. And let's see. Catherine asked if I'm creating multiple levels for content for different levels of learners. I am. So we'll get to that in a minute. So with the chunking, the smaller's better. So that's why I would start with the micro lessons can be very beneficial. Could be on one topic of one aspect of accessibility, and I'll go into that a little further. When you're creating these webinars, what can you do to kind of spice it up to make it kind of fun? Some examples I have, which will go in with Sneak It In. I had the alt of alternative text, which that is an advanced learner. So alternative text, adding any, great, we're on the right track, but adding good alternative text is an art form. And there's definitely certain guidelines that we want to follow when we're creating alternative text. So I do offer that, the art of alternative text. It has a theme of Dante, the medieval writer, because, saying words so eloquently and how we like. So I thought, at least for me, it was catchy and fun. So hopefully other people thought so too. So that was a way of both catchy or all catchy and fun, Sneak It In, and advanced. Also with those, I offered one called webinar called Photoshop Expressionism, which it was a Kandinsky artist, the artist Kandinsky theme based, and it was about advanced ways of designing interesting PowerPoints. But of course, that was those good designs are accessible as well. So I got to get a lot of accessibility. I think most of us will agree that good design, accessible design is good design. The other one from that series was learning through aesthetics, and that had the theme of the Renaissance painter Botticelli, and that was about mostly using the D2L HTML templates. So that's CCCS, that's our learning management system. And those at least start out as accessible. So if you're using the templates and then you're not using practices that make them inaccessible, which as we know that can happen. Those are accessible. It also addressed UDL, Universal Design for Learning aspects that could be added using pictures and video and visual elements other than just writing. All right. So some techniques to get all these practices in too. So one-on-one, if you have instructors who are willing and you have the bandwidth, one-on-one is a great way to connect with people and to encourage accessibility. You typically can go in a little deeper about why we do this and what our practices are, and maybe show some demonstration. If you know how to use a screen reader, it's great to demo with that. If you cannot use a screen reader with out a mouse, I ask you please do not demo it or test it that way, because you can trick yourself that something is accessible when it's not very easily with the screen reader. The micro lessons, so that's what got us here in the first place. These are the bite-sized lightning round. There's some other names, but can make these fun. Short with that chunking. So here we're talking about our chunking and making it digestible. And I did a series here, so, and bear with me, this should go easier this time, but I'm not promising anything. So no, see, there we go. Okay. So this was a series I offered last fall, and just to give you some ideas of what the topics were, was HALA for headings, which was of course Word and D2L practices, and then 2 easy templates for PowerPoint. And then Unique Up on Titles was PowerPoint, and I did explain that title within the webinar. My dad used to always tell me a joke. How do you surprise a rabbit? Unique up on them. So that entertained me. I like to entertain myself a lot. So that was all in 1 week, and they were just short, different days and 10 minutes long. And then I had 2 other weeks in the same format. I had Terrific Typeface, Love for Links and Lists, Tremendous Tables, and then it was Got a Few Extra Minutes, Stay for Enhanced Excel. So we got to talk a little bit about some Excel accessibility techniques. And the last week was the art of alternative text. So I went in a little deeper in that 10 minutes about some practices we can do to create effective alternative text. Check your checkers, which was, of course, talking about how our accessibility checkers are a great way to start, but they are not the end all to be all, and we still need to be doing our manual checks, which I'm surprised at how much I reiterate this, that I have to keep reiterating it. So I think the more we talk to our instructors or admin or whoever we're giving some guidance to on accessibility, that we keep bringing that up, because I think everybody's busy, and so they want that to be the stopping point. But as we know, it just isn't, or as I would assume most of us know. See there, I'm assuming. Stop it. Okay. And then my last one was what the F with PDFs. And my advice is just don't, unless you absolutely have to. So that was the lightning round series that might be more digestible. I think too, as now that we have the buy-in of leadership and um, our colleagues, that, of course, accessibility, we're getting more requests for training, as Kay said at the beginning of this webinar. There's tons of accessibility lessons here, webinars, and so now we have that buy-in. So I think little things like this will be a little more successful in having. I think I had at most 4 people at mine, but I think if I ran it again this semester, which I might, I'd get a better turnout. And I did mine at lunchtime. I think I might pick a different time. I'll have to do some research into that, but depending on your schools, you might have some ideas of when would best. All right, so I'm going to look at the chat here. Looks like we've got some conversations going on. Got the in. Have you experimented with offering cohort grouping for enhanced engagement? Catherine, would you mind coming off mute or putting in the chat? Describe that a little bit. I'm not sure I understand the question.
Well, one of the practices is to go ahead and get folks into a cohort of their own creation, and then going ahead and having them support each other as they learn.
I haven't. Have you done that and had success? And how did you start that?
Which time? At CU, we did quite a bit of cohort learning. We had really good buy-in from groups that already had someone who was engaged in accessibility, and they were able to bring other participants in from their own colleagues, from their own departments, and the cohorts would kind of naturally form. At CSU, it was very straightforward. Groups were more oriented around job roles. And at Front Range, we're still getting started, doing different types of training.
Yeah, that's definitely something I like that idea, would like to look into. As I said, we're now a center for professional development. I'll just go by our acronym CITL because it's too hard for me to say our full name. And now I think we might have the resources where we could do that. I think having the UJA panorama accessibility checker. So if you're not familiar with that, we're now have access to this checker that's gonna go live in about, I think, fall 23. It's gonna go system wide, and already we're starting to gather people who are gonna work together on that, or departments, or have instructors. So yeah, that's a great idea. That's definitely something that I will look into doing, because we do have people that are really passionate about accessibility. So yeah, if they had some others to bounce it off, that would be great. So love that idea. I'm gonna admit this person. Okay. All right. Is this the panorama I am referencing? That's Val. He's got a link. I'm gonna pull that up. It is. And it's gonna be amazing. Again, it's integrated with an LMS, so you can check your courses, get analytics. It'll even create alternative formats. Again, it is an accessibility checker, an accessibility tool, so it is not 100%, but it's definitely a great place to start, and I think will help instructors not feel so overwhelmed, because that's the other thing. That's actually make what I'd like to bring out a point about accessibility for accommodations. So if you are working with instructors that have students with an accommodation and need to revise, reamp your course to meet accessibility guidelines, depending on if it's visual or hard of hearing or others. Mostly I did a lot of work for visual accommodations. If the instructor has never worked with a student that needs an accommodation such as that, which is, I guess, might be considered large to a new instructor. Usually I've had them where they're so freaked out, and then once they, sorry, I was reading the chat here. Once they work with that student and they're like, oh, this is a human, they get really pumped and more motivated for accessibility, and just realize it's another student. So actually, as much as we want to limit the need for accommodations, they are a great way that motivate and inspire our educators to create more accessible content. Let's see. So we got here Catherine, I'm sorry if I'm not pronouncing your name right, if it's Catherine or Catherine, I assume it's Catherine. I like that panorama. Will check accessibility as faculty create the content. Yes. And Kath, okay. And she says empathy. Yes, great. Yes, that's the term we need. So we need empathy for everyone. All right. The other thing was workshops, that active learning, hands-on approach, offering a file that your participants in the workshop can follow along with and help remediate a document for accessibility, or if it's more advanced, maybe create, offering images and having everyone take a stab at creating alternative text and seeing, kind of comparing notes and talking about what meets some of those best practices, and help our learners, and get ideas from each other on what we can do. And then again, workshops on that are not only designed for talking about accessibility, can get a little dry, but talking about learning theories and practices. So what kind of pedagogical things are we incorporating? How does accessibility fall into that? UDL, inclusion. I feel like sometimes inclusion gets a little better response than accessibility. Universal design. So kind of, unfortunately for some of us, I think we need to destigmatize what accessibility is. And again, make it so it's an empathetic approach and not just more work for ourselves. Okay, I'll stop again here. Any questions or comments? This is I'm using Canva for my slides, and this is only my second time, so I'm not quite as smooth as I could be. All right. So let me move this down. Oops. Get out of here. So we can read what I'm saying. All right. All right. So take 5. I love this approach, and I have to credit Amanda Hardman, who is a senior learning designer at CCCS, because she originally came up with this idea that we started doing here at ACC, and it was a take 5 for easy accessibility. And it's just pointing out some of the most important aspects that aren't too hard to do that'll increase accessibility by mounds. So we focused on headings, PowerPoint templates, color contrast, descriptive links, and alternative text. And I'm curious if any of you have ones that accessibility guidelines that you think are more important than that, or just as important, if anybody feels like answering or typing.
Use of color.
So even more so than the color contrast, but
Yes, because so much academic content can be represented in a graph format, and frequently people will rely on color alone to distinguish the different aspects.
this is true. That's actually, so I went to AXCON conference, virtual conference. Anybody went to that? Yeah.
Oh,
And
yeah.
I know if you remember the gentleman who, and I'm sorry, I don't remember his name, but his thing was everything should be black and white designed. And I've kind of embraced that, at least for now. I'll probably get kind of sick of it and want to add some color back in, but I just liked the idea, and he still had really interesting stuff, but I like working with constraints anyway and seeing how creative you can get. But then that kind of eliminates that problem for how are we using color, and is that the only identifier? Because you are correct, we need, excuse me, if we are using color to identify information or to create emphasis, we have to use something else in order to make that be identifiable to all. We have a gentleman at our school, one of our VPs, and he is colorblind, and he put a black, the draw erase boards, he has a black one in his office, and then you use white markers so that, you know, he could minimize the need for people to come write color in his, use the color markers in his office when describing things. So I thought that was pretty cool. Text formatting and line spacing, Diana has suggested. Agreed. Yeah, from a visual aspect, that's great. That's one of the last things I was doing on here. That's why this slide was so jumbled actually when we first visited it. All right. So we are pretty much over, I think, my slides. I was hoping again to get a little dialogue going, because I'm sure there's many other things that you all do or thinking about to do. So here's my slide for thank you, questions, and comments and suggestions right now. And I've got a picture of my little lady vector illustration with, she's waving goodbye and she's got a smile with her sunglasses in a bag because she's happy to, now that she has some ideas to go create some educational content for our educators. Let's see, Catherine has shared a link in the chat we created an exclusive design checklist. We advocate print a PDF as black and white to check color usage. Ah, love that. That is great. We have had a checklist as well. We haven't, again, it's been a challenge for us. For the longest time, we didn't have leadership buy-in. So it's been a challenge for us to create a culture where learning about accessibility is important on a professional development level, and that is changing. So unfortunately, we have created these things. Now, as far as implementing them, that's going to be another story. We're kind of working on that right now. Again, if anyone has suggestions, I'm happy. I'd be happy to have those. Oh, this file has been deleted.
It shouldn't be.
All right. I'm going to try to select it too. Oh, yeah, we can't access it, unfortunately. But yeah, would love to see that for sure. We're trying to do things. Let's see, I lost my train of thought. Where was I? I'll get back there. Hang on. So for us, as far as the outreach on getting of how do we educate these educators? How do we let them know that we have our resources for that? That's kind of some pinch points from us and going through some growing pains. And coming up with some ideas on how we can do that. And as I said, we have more buy-in now. So I think we do have more people looking for it, which is great. So maybe that'll generate more interest too, some word of mouth. And was it Kath or Cat?
Yeah.
Kath, okay. We has posted another link. And so, great, thank you for sharing this checklist.
Our concept was to put it in more plain language than the WCAG.
Great point. Yep. That's something that I'm a firm believer in. I don't know if I'll be savvy enough to get my checklist out, but it was, and I used it more when I was doing a lot of accommodation remediation, but it definitely could be used in all sense. It's actually what gave me the idea to do, it can be a self-eval. So it gave me the idea of to actually create a self-eval. And I'm trying. All right. Nope. Of course, when I'm under pressure, I can't remember where I put things, so. Well, at least for CCC, maybe I can share that if that's something anybody's interested in. Because I think it, and that's what I did too, because woo, those WCAG, even WebAIM. So WCAG is the guidelines that we use to measure accessibility. And that was created by the powers that be. And then WebAIM is kind of it's become sort of the experts in accessibility. I'm going to pull up their website and share it with you. And they have a great checklist, but it's a little bit
Dry.
thank you. Get their checklist. They do have some great trainings.
Absolutely, and they've been doing cutting edge work since their inception. I'll put in a shameless plug as well for the Accessing Ground Conference that's always held each November in Colorado. It's a conference, it's a conference that has been grown and is specific to higher ed for accessibility and assistive technology. Accessinghigherground.org.
All right. We can put that in the
I've been working
chat.
on that conference for the last 27 years.
I think I went to one and I would definitely like to go to another one. That's another thing is sharing resources. So, any of these that you have made or that you found online or other people have made is to utilize those and share. Okay, so I'm looking for that higher ed. If you would put the
Oh,
link.
I posted.
Oh, yay. Thank you. Great.
The accessibility summer camp is a free one-day session as well. And that's, let's see, ICT, let me grab that link.
Yeah, I think I'm going to that one, but
It's really nice
for
because
other people.
fully remote and a lot of very quite well-known folks go ahead and present at this. It's something, it's free. It's just one day out there and done.
Yeah, I went to as I mentioned, that AXCon. It's put on by a company called DeQ or a organization
DQ.
DeQ University.
DQ.
And yeah, DQ. And that's free. So I encourage that. Microsoft has a yearly one called Microsoft Ability, which is virtual and
Ability Summit.
well. Okay.
There's the accessibility summer camp link.
Get it in there. Great. Well, does anyone else have any comments or questions or suggestions? We can wrap this up a little bit early. You can take a bit longer break if you'd like to.
Access U from Nobility is another really well-known conference.
Okay.
They also do the Accessible Internet Relay, 24-hour remediation of inaccessible websites.
During that,
their AIR rally, AIR rally. Yep.
so they have 24 hours that they'll remediate.
You join a team and your team works on a website. When I had some of my students join when I was teaching universal design for digital media, of course.
I'm pulling up all these, so I have these links. Okay. Well, I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up unless there's anything else anyone would like to share. Thank you for sharing all these great resources. I'm definitely going to check out the ones that I haven't heard of.
And also just a note, as everyone is getting ready to leave, I did put the survey, the feedback survey in the chat as well. We appreciate your feedback.
All right. Well, thank you, everyone. I appreciate you joining. I hope you got a couple ideas out of this and enjoy the rest of your day.